Greetings, everyone. So, I want to say a few things about rather a big breaking story that's just happened. Not really directly related to Catholicism, I'll be honest. I think it says a lot about the culture and it says a lot about how things are run by or in the secular world. So, you may have heard of Russell Brand, quite a well-known person, certainly in the UK, probably in the USA as well, and elsewhere. Now, it's just come out in a collaboration piece between the Sunday Times and Channel 4's Dispatches. That's a documentary series that 4 women have accused Russell Brand of sexual assault. If we have a read of this from the BBC website, because of course the BBC reported it, pretty much all the mainstream media in the UK have reported this. Quite possibly elsewhere as well. But here's what the BBC said about the accusations. One woman alleges that Brand raped her against the wall in his Los Angeles home. She was treated at a rape crisis center on the same day. The Times says it has seen medical records to support this. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was in his early 30s and she was 16 and still at school. She alleges he referred to her as the child during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship. A third woman claims that Brand sexually assaulted her while she worked with him in Los Angeles and that he threatened to take legal action if she told anyone else about her allegation. The fourth woman alleged being sexually assaulted by Brand and him being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. So Russell Brand has responded to this in a fairly short video. Here's some of what he said.
I've received 2 extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks, as well as some pretty stupid stuff like my community festival should be stopped, that I shouldn't be able to attack mainstream media narratives on this channel. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. These allegations pertain to the time when I was working in the mainstream, when I was in the newspapers all the time, when I was in the movies, and as I've written about extensively in my books, I was very, very promiscuous. Now, during that time of promiscuity, the relationships I had were absolutely always consensual. I was always transparent about that then, almost too transparent, and I'm being transparent about it now as well.
Now, I'm not going to be judging whether this happened or didn't happen. It's highly likely that Russell Brand, who has openly admitted to being very promiscuous in his life, probably did have intimate relations with these women making the accusations. It probably wasn't just random women plucked out of anywhere, just making things up completely. There are probably women that he did get intimate with, did have sexual relations with, and now they're making these accusations against him. And he spent many years in Hollywood. And as we know, these kind of things, this fornication goes on in Hollywood a lot. So knowing what kind of a past he has, it's not likely that these women have completely fabricated ever having any sexual relations with him, and that he doesn't even know who they are. He probably does. The question is whether he has forced himself on them and sexually assaulted them, or whether it was all consensual. He claims in his video that it was consensual. Again, I'm not going to be judging as to whether it was or wasn't, because I don't know. Probably nobody knows except for him and them at the moment. What is interesting though is timing. When these things come out in the media. For a long time, Russell Brand has been okay with the media. They've had no problem with him. He was just basically a liberal comedian who was making all kinds of crude jokes and sexual jokes, and they never had any issues with him. They knew he was promiscuous. They knew he was fornicating. They knew he had a drug past, all these things, but they liked him, because he was left-leaning. He was a liberal. He was one of them. He was one of the Hollywood folks when he was in Hollywood. More recently, in recent years, he's done quite a dramatic turn. And he's now been criticizing the mainstream media. He's been criticizing that Hollywood liberal lifestyle of promiscuity. He's attacked Big Pharma quite a lot. He's doing things that the mainstream media and the big companies do not like He's really going for the jugular in some of these cases. And he has a big following. He has millions of followers. So this is getting some attention, what he's saying. And so the timing is very interesting, that now suddenly they want to discredit him, or even more, they want to destroy him, really, because if they can prove that he has sexually assaulted people, that's pretty much going to destroy his career. It's a crime, so he's going to go to prison. But why now? That's the question.
These women have made a range of accusations about Brand's behaviour between 2004 and 2013.
So the last one would have taken place about 10 years ago. Why now have they been digging into this? Why didn't they look into it earlier? One of the two Sunday Times journalists actually said that she's been in touch with a particular lady who was with Brand.
Since 2021, I've been speaking to a woman who had a 3-month relationship with Brand in 2006, when she was 16 and he was 30.
Well, in 2021, Russell Brand was already not on their side. He wasn't on the left-wing team, on the liberal team. He was already criticising mainstream media. He was criticising all the things they don't like criticised. And since then, this journalist, this reporter, has been in contact with this lady. Why did they never look into this earlier? That's the question. And I think whether he's done this or not, even if he has done this, and it would be terrible if he has, the question is why they're revealing it now. Why didn't they look into this earlier? Did they know anything earlier and just sort of leave it and sit on it until the right time? Because that would be quite scandalous. Here's another interesting thing to note. This is again in the BBC article. The Sunday Times said all the women felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. The newspaper felt several felt compelled to do so given Brand's newfound prominence as an online wellness influencer. So these reporters did some digging, found these women, and then approached them to tell this story. So they were clearly looking for ways to take Russell Brand down. It wasn't a case that these women suddenly got together and said, you know what, enough is enough. We've got to say what happened. Let's go to the media. Let's tell them this. And, let's show who Russell Brand really is. No, the reporters found them and approached them and basically wanted to do this story and then convinced them to talk about it. So it's one of those things where, as I said before, whether it's true, whether it isn't, it's interesting that it's happening now when Russell Brand is very much a persona non grata in the elite and mainstream media circles. I've generally warmed to Russell Brand because I felt that he hasn't had an easy life. His childhood wasn't very easy. He did get involved in drugs a lot. He's managed to get out of that. Yes, he was very promiscuous with various women. And sort of gradually over time, as he's been looking into things, because as I said, he was very liberal before, he's actually noticed, hold on a second, some of these things are a bit strange. And as I said, he has had a go at the mainstream media. And he has had a go at the Democrats and Joe Biden. And these are all things that don't sit well with these liberal elites. So he basically was a little bit too influential. And he was talking a little bit too much about things that they don't like him to talk about. And then now suddenly we have this that isn't surprising at all. Again, we shouldn't be too quick to defend him and say this is a hit because we don't know if this is true or not. It's hard to say because, a lot of these Hollywood types do think that they are untouchable when they have this power and this money and they can do anything they want. And we know that there have been cases when guys in Hollywood, obviously one very famous one, Harvey Weinstein, basically forced themselves on women. They felt they could have any woman they wanted. It is possible that Russell Brand was in a similar situation when he was in Hollywood and just thought he can do whatever he wants with anyone. But at the same time, something about his character and personality makes it hard to believe that because he doesn't seem like that type. He doesn't seem like the type that would need to do that, really. Like, you feel like he could probably find enough women who would be willing to be sexually intimate with him without him having to force himself on them. So, after all these years, for them to suddenly say that they were sexually assaulted, and I know that doesn't mean it didn't happen just because it was a number of years since they've mentioned it, but it just seems like it's too much the right time for the media to be able to to do this story. But anyway, I just wanted to comment on that. As I said, I've warmed to Russell Brand because he does have faith in God. He is a believer, and I think he truly does believe in trying to be a good person. And he does he looks at a lot of his life from the past and tries to kind of say, he acknowledges that it was wrong, and chasing stardom and chasing money was all wrong, and chasing women and doing drugs. He acknowledges that's all wrong, and he always tries to discourage people from that. And obviously we hope that he'll find his way to Christianity at some point. He certainly has a lot of respect for it, but he also kind of does that thing where he thinks all religions are good and so on. So he's not quite there in that regards, but I felt like when he was making his turn, he was turning in the good direction rather than he was starting to make his way down the right path rather than going further down the wrong path. And now this bombshell has happened, and it's interesting to know. Well, it'll be interesting to find out whether it's true or not. But again, whether it is or not, the media have been looking for a way to take him down, like they've looked for ways to take other people down. Joe Rogan, if you've heard of him, the podcaster, has a big podcast. He was attacked when he was taking something for COVID that wasn't Moderna or AstraZeneca or all the others that they said you should be taking. It was something completely different, and they were trying to make fun of him and mock him. So they do every now and then feel they need to take someone down a peg because this person is saying things that they do not like. Anyway, folks, that's all I got to say on that. If you have any interest in this, do feel free to look into this story. And it's a bit too convenient to be happening right now. But anyway, I suppose we'll have to wait and see how it unfolds. In the meantime, thanks for watching and have a blessed day.